everybody. Welcome back yet again to West Coast Geeks. I am OC Steve, holding it down here in SoCal, and over there, my friend from NorCal, my other fusion brother from another mother, DJ Ruben. How the hell are you?
Oh, busy December, nonstop Christmas shopping and all this other crap.
Errands and all the other mundane stuff that goes on throughout the course of a work week. But hey, we're here on the weekend to talk a little geek news, to fill you in on what's going on that you may not be privy to. And yet again, this all goes back to our very first episode. And the controversy this week in all things geek is James Gunn, one half of DC Studios executive board that reports directly to David Zaslav. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, that's the guy this year who bought Warner Brothers. So there was a merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery, his cable company. They put them together. Now we have Discovery Warner Brothers, but more importantly, he looked at where everything is. He did a deep audit in these last few months and went, I need some guys. We need to have DC Studios under one cohesive narrative, and I want these two guys to run it. We covered that in our very first episode. Now, James Gunn has put out some tweets. We'll get to that. But I figured going into 2023, so you're a little more informed, you get to know what is going to be on the DC slate. So DJ Ruben and I are going to break that down right now. I found a good little article here from Screen Rant that kind of just gives us the timeline of 2023 moving forward. So obviously, we're going to start the year with the sequel to Shazam, which is Shazam and the Fury of the Gods in March. This is kind of a weird one because it has like Helen Mirren in it as the bad guy. So like Hesperia and Calypso. So we're going into more of the Greek kind of pantheon. It's just kind of weird that Helen Mirren's the bad guy, at least in my mind. I don't know if we're going to see a Black Adam cameo or not, because Black Adam's kind of on the fence if we're even going to get a sequel. So that kind of delves into what James Gunn was talking about. And then the next one comes in June. Probably one of the more controversial films on DC Studios slate that has been reshot, redone. There's been press junkets about it to cover everything Ezra Miller. I don't know what this movie is going to be. I don't think I'm going to run to theaters to see it because I can just sit tight for about 3 months and sit at home when it drops on HBO Max sometime arbitrarily in September. And I know we're going to have Michael Keaton in it. I don't know to what extent. I know that they've reshot scenes with Ezra Miller due to his outside life that is problematic in itself. We're not even going to go down that rabbit hole. Batfleck has been attached to it. So we're going to just see what was thrown at the wall and sticks and what's the narrative for this film, man. Ezra Miller has double duty in it, playing himself in the Snyderverse and also the Burtonverse version of his own copy of The Flash. The only movie I'm looking forward to, honestly, in August is Blue Beetle.
Yes.
The suit's great. The fact that they stuck with the suit, that they didn't go full-blown CGI over the board. The actor that they picked to play Jaime Reyes is great. You couldn't get any better than the dude from Cobra Kai.
Oh, for sure. That's the best casting for that.
That and they're just having fun with it. They're gonna have a lot. From what I've heard, that there's gonna be a lot of comedic actors in it, kind of as his TOs in the film. So they're really leaning on that, and they're just kind of like, it's a modern day kid getting the Blue Beetle suit. And I always thought that was one of the newer retcons that was cool about the DC universe, was that because the original Blue Beetle was just a guy in kind of like spandex with a giant floating beetle mobile. All right, there wasn't like, oh my God, you're not going to see a bunch of sweaties complaining about that they made the Blue Beetle cool and gave him a glorified Guyver suit.
Right.
So that's in August. I think that's going to be a good one. And then we get to the Amber Turd conundrum with Aquaman to the Lost Kingdom. And this is going to probably, spoiler-wise, I don't know if he's going to die or not, but this is definitely Jason Momoa's last outing as Aquaman. Now, your thoughts. Are you lamenting, or are you trying to process this, Ruben, or are you in despair?
I'm not even sure why this is still happening.
I don't know.
Especially on Christmas.
And this is another one that got moved and bumped. And they did also have reshoots in with this too, where Batfleck is there. So, I don't know about this movie. They even said that Michael Keaton shot cameos before Ben Affleck, and there's been recent rumor reports saying that both Batman cameos are not going to be in it whatsoever. So just totally ignore that. Obviously, with the legal precedent of Amber Heard, they even mentioned that they were going to recast Mira at some point. So this is another one of these movies that's just been weird. Like it just hasn't gone smooth due to outside existential stuff going on. So that's the current slate for DC in 2023. So I just kind of wanted to start our conversation with that leading into it. And what happened this week is that the Hollywood Reporter kind of did an article based on a lot of tweets from James Gunn, because next week, this is going to be the first time that we see James Gunn and Peter Safran kind of have an town hall meeting and discuss what some of their preliminary plans are for DC films for their big 10-year plan. Like, here's some of the stuff we're going to keep. Here's some of the stuff that we got to get rid of, or not even necessarily get rid of, but this is the stuff we're going to keep, and this is the plan moving forward. So
I think
Hollywood. No, go ahead.
I think that's all necessary though, because like if you look at the state of the DCEU and how it was, like we were talking about this earlier, that there's no common ground. There's just movies.
Yeah, and some of the directors were on board. You could tell, and they were there to be a part of the team, and they were team players. And there were other directors when they made their movies like, I don't care about this. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And that's problematic because when one of those big characters is like, for instance, Wonder Woman, it's really hard to reel that in when somebody's just totally out in left field. And you're like, well, she's one of the main pillars. She's the Trinity, if you will. You got your Batman, your Superman, and your Wonder Woman, where everything, those moral characters of those three stem out. And that's how we get additional characters in the DC universe. There's all kind of archetypes that all go back to one of those three or are connected to one of those three. So it's really hard to have Wonder Woman out here from what rumors were discussing about Wonder Woman 3, where Patty Jenkins just wasn't really on board and she was kind of doing her own thing, and it didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense in service to the DC universe. Now, David Zaslav has pretty much said that this needs to be good. This can't just be good anymore. Like Black Adam was good, but it wasn't great. It didn't blow up ridiculous box office numbers. So his marching orders to both respectively Safran and Gunn are like, we need great. We need things that are going to hit the $1 billion mark opening week. Like we can't just settle for it to break even and make a little profit where we're at right now, because Warner Brothers in the larger scale is in the red. One of their gems for their properties is DC Studios. So I thought it was good to just kind of, James Gunn came out on Twitter and he kind of set the record straight when it came to the Hollywood Reporter article, where he's like, I don't know where they're getting their information from, or they're reading the tea leaves. So I thought we'd talk about that. So Gunn goes into the facts. So as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true. Some of it is half true. Some of it is not even true. And some of it we haven't decided yet whether it's true or not. So he's trying to set the record straight, going, there's a lot of stuff in there. And just check with me. We're going to tell you what's going on. Don't worry. We're aware of our plan. Just wait till next week when we have this open town hall meeting, is what he's politely trying to say. Although the first month at DC has been fruitful, building the next 10 years of story takes time, and we're still just beginning. Peter and I choose to helm DC Studios knowing we're coming into a fractious environment, both in stories being told and the audience itself. And there would be an unavoidable transitional period as we move into a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. I think that's he's concise with what he says. I'm not going to make everybody happy, but trust me, I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And
you almost have to do that. You have to do that in that sense, because like a lot of the like we keep saying, like none of the movies, some of them don't make sense, but they don't make sense. Like they're off and they're doing their own damn thing. At least this way, you reel them all together, and you could have an established universe where people could pop up and they're the same person or the same character.
Right, because we had a Superman in the Berlanti verse, the TV verse, if you will, that Berlanti made over the last 10 years. We had a Flash there. So it's just really weird moving forward when you have multiple people and you kind of have this crisis on infinite Earths, pun intended. So I get where he's coming from. He's like, hey, you gotta break some eggs to make an omelet. I'm not gonna make everybody happy, but just chill. Just understand that there's a method to the madness. And then he continues on. But in the end, the drawbacks of the transitional period that will be dwarfed by the creative possibilities and opportunities to build upon what has worked in DC so far and help to rectify what is not. So what he's trying to say is like what we talked about off camera. You're going to need to have a Superman. Right now, they've pretty much solidified that it's Henry Cavill. Whether he gets a film, we get a Man of Steel 2, we get the Man of Tomorrow. Just wait. We're going to have to see what happens with their schedule, Henry Cavill's schedule as a whole, and see how that works out. So they're going to pick pieces. We need to, like you mentioned before the show, we need to have a Batman, and we need to have a Batman that's also a strong Bruce Wayne.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the hardest things for these movies is that they cast for Batman and not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the harder character to portray. I think, and that's what gives the Batman Bruce Wayne character it's everything. Everything about Bruce Wayne is what makes Batman. That struggle of Bruce Wayne, that morality, it's all because of Bruce Wayne. And they throw all these random actors into the Batman suit, thinking, okay, this will work, and it hasn't.
Well, and Walter Hamada, that was there before him, kind of was throwing curveballs with trying to move Michael Keaton forward as that Batman, and it wasn't very well received. And so that's why we had the Batgirl movie that got scrubbed, because their continuity-wise, even in the Flashpoint, the Batfleck was going to be wiped away by this magical reslate retooling. And he was going to, the Michael Keaton Batman, Bruce Wayne, was going to be the penultimate Batman moving forward. But, it just doesn't work in service. I love Michael Keaton. I love the 89 Batman, but there's just stuff that just doesn't translate due to his age, action-wise, that he wouldn't be capable of doing that would be believable in service of the larger narrative of a DC universe.
That, I don't want dying Michael Keaton, Luke Skywalker style.
Yeah, you don't want the old sad wizard that can't really do anything, that's reluctant when he has to don the cape and the cowl again. And continuing what Gunn said, we know that we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we promise everything is done in service to the story and service to the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. So it's character, it's story, it's character that's going to be driven first. And I think that statement is good. As for the answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters and stories time and the attention that they deserve. We ourselves are still have a lot of questions to ask and to answer. I mean, this is a guy who you could tell has read the floppies, has read the paperbacks. He's done his work, but he needs to do more work, and he's just asking for you to be patient while they try to figure out what they're going to do with this. This is not something that is a committee of too many cooks in the kitchen. They want to have two guys helming the ship moving forward, with Safran working on the production side. You can tell Gunn is the creative chief officer in that kind of way, that is going to have a master hand in being an architect in all three facets of DC Studios moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And, if people are questioning Gunn, just remember he took a lesser-known title in Guardians and made box office smash. Like, a lot of people didn't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but they do now because of James Gunn.
Well, and even his iteration of the Suicide Squad was more in service of the comic book. He picked more obscure kind of henchmen, third-level characters like your Javelin, your detachable arms. You had it was great to watch Pete Davidson get blown up. So, I can't complain about that. And out of that, we got a great show like Peacemaker that nobody ever saw that coming. That was a very obscure Charleston character that was taken over into DC's mainstay. Kind of had a little bit of a run in the 70s and then just kind of dwarfed and petered out. But he brought him back, and he brought him back with John Cena. So he has the ability to take these obscure characters, really define them with traits and a story and motivation, and you're going to have a fun ride, and you're never going to see it coming. So that's what he's trying to say. Give me the time. I just got here. My feet just landed on the ground. We're assessing everything, and we promise you that everything we do is in service. It's not lame brain, and it's not going to be a half-assed decision. So with that in mind, I think this is the other thing too. We did know that Jason Momoa a couple weeks ago got on social media and he was ecstatic for a new role that he's going to have in the DC universe. So yes, Aquaman fans, you're going to have to lament that he's leaving Atlantis. He's hanging up the trident. Somebody else might fill those steps in being Arthur moving forward. But if we get this, I'm going to be a happy camper, dude.
Me too. That's perfect right there. No makeup.
He should have never been Aquaman from the get-go, dude. His demeanor in real life, his machismo, I don't give a shit attitude of just being here and hanging out and wanting to have a good time. His rock and roll mentality, if you will, everything lends to Lobo.
Dude, he looks like him right there without any costume.
Yeah, just got to wrap those things in dreads and he's ready to roll. And in all honesty, yes, The Rock is The Rock, and that little cameo in Black Adam at the end was great. But I'd rather see Superman tussle with Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do it, it's James Gunn. Please, for the love of God, make it rated R.
Yes.
You know, I want to see Lobo dropping expletives. I want to see Lobo grabbing guys to the back of his space bike and literally running them through like a comet or on the dirt of some like Mars planet. Like, I just want it to be unapologetic. I want it to be amped to 11. I want it to be non-PC, non-apologetic, over the top, balls to the wall action. This is something it can't be PG-13. It has to be rated R. And knowing that James Gunn is a fan of that character, he's a fan of Superman. If they had a fight in that, I think that would be more groundbreaking than Black Adam and Superman. Don't you agree?
Oh, dude, I'm excited for that. That happens.
Yeah, I'd rather see this Justice League with Superman and Lobo in it. And if we get a Green Lantern moving forward, it's James Gunn. Pull your punch. Don't go with Jon Stewart. Don't go with Kyle Rayner. Don't go with Hal Jordan. Give me the loudmouth, unapologetic Guy Gardner Green Lantern. The British guy with an attitude the size of an iceberg. Like, give me a different kind of Justice League that's a little fun, that's a little risky, that's a little dangerous, but we're going to enjoy that thrill ride.
Look, if they want to move forward with these movies, man, make them PG-13 and R, because you have a lot more fun with those. Because the Deadpool movies were awesome.
Deadpool sold, so Lobo's going to sell. Just get me a badass soundtrack full of heavy rock 80s music. Get that going, and we're going to have a great ride. So I think that kind of covers what I had to say and what I was thinking about this week with everybody losing their mind over James Gunn. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I have faith in what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and how he's going to execute it. And I think what he's doing is in service. Like, we've never really seen Kevin Feige talk too much about his love of the comic books, let alone show pages online. It's always like, here's the production stuff. This is what we're doing. But I think that's the thing that James Gunn is doing is he's like, I'm not a fake fan. I'm a genuine fan of all things geek, all things pop culture. I was a guy who had a hand in Marvel. I'm coming over to DC. Give me a minute to let my DC flag fly. I only did one film and I did Peacemaker. But I assure you, once my boots hit the ground, I'm going to hit the ground running. And you guys are going to love DC. And that's the challenge that he set himself. He could have sat at Marvel. He could have sat there doing the cosmic stuff and being content, but he's a guy who wanted a challenge. They gave him this next step to step up, and I think that he's not going to disappoint.
And we need this. You know, I'm tired. Like, DC has such a great history of stories and things that need to the masses, and yet every single time that we've had a new DC movie, it hasn't been that good.
So give it time, kids. Like, Gunn's got the helm. Safran's figuring out the money to get the best movie made for the best, production rate. Gunn has the creative mind. I think both these guys who cohesively are going to give you good products. You're going to appreciate what you got on HBO Max moving forward in the next upcoming years in the form of streaming and animated content. So just sit back, relax, know that it's in good hands. Know that we'll be covering it as it's coming out. We're not going to be giving you rumor mill nonsense like some other YouTube sites love to do. That's why I quoted the man directly. I didn't take it from an ulterior source. If you're going to get it straight from the mouth of Gunn, it's best to read it. And knowing me being a longtime James Gunn fan, I'm going to, defend the guy versus try to slam the guy. So that's the news for now. You know our social medias. They'll be down in the links below. Ruben is taking care of the West Coast Geeks Instagram, so check that out. But as always, like, share, subscribe, put some comments down below to let us know what you want us to talk about. Join the conversation on our social medias if you think there's a subject that you want us to pick apart or debate or deliberate. We would appreciate that. And as always, no matter where you go, what you do, and how you do it, always let your geek flag fly and stay geeky, my friends. We will catch you on the next video. Adios.
See you later.